Welcome to our weekly cybersecurity article review for Thursday, August 10, 2023, guys. And we are always looking forward to having these amazing conversation. And no doubt you're also looking forward to the various insights that can be gained from the conversations that we have from time to time. I mean, it's always we're always looking forward to the various value that we can actually add to the community on a whole so that we can become better, more efficient cybersecurity professionals within the industry. And in today's review, we look at an article published by Health Net Security dated for August 8, 2023. And it speaks to the fact that managing human cyber risk matters more than ever. And to share insights into this article, we have Chris Carter, Jonathan Fisher, and Nate Knowles. So, guys, thanks for joining as usual to give your feedback on these articles that we look at from time to time. So, before we actually get into the details of this, let me first share with you just a brief just to give you an idea of what this article is about. I mean, there are a number of important points, elements from this article that can definitely help us in our security practices within our organization. So, based on this article, it states that as artificial intelligence amplifies the sophistication and reach of phishing, vishing, and smishing attacks, understanding and managing human cyber risk has become increasingly vital, according to the SANS Institute. And the report underscores the escalating takes in human cyber risk, particularly at a time when 20% of organizations worldwide reported security incidents involving remote workers in the past year. And notably, it says that the study found that mature security programs marked by robust teams and leadership support are characterized by having at least three full-time employees in their security awareness teams. And this in of itself, to me, is also maybe a challenging point for many persons in terms of the capabilities to support and to implement these programs, not to mention the various persons that are required to carry out these various roles as it relates to security programs, but also um, for many persons, especially for persons who are also new to cybersecurity. When we talk about human cyber risk, you might be asking yourself, what is that all about? So just to give you an idea before we actually, I mean, get into all the necessary details of this article in of itself, then when you talk about human cyber risk, then we are talking about risks that arise from human actions or inaction that can lead to a cybersecurity incident. And these risks can be intentional or unintentional, as they can be caused by a variety of factors, as was outlined in the article, in terms of vishing, smishing, the malicious intent, third party vendors, and the list goes on. So, it's a number of things that actually leads to this. So, guys, there we have just a snippet of the details. Um, the floor is now open for you to give your insights in terms of the article, your take on the article, and the various points that stands out to you in terms of the overall um, purpose of this article in of itself.
Well, to me, I mean, I try to keep things as simplistic as I can because that's just how my brain works. Um, it just seems like a lot of these attacks, vishing, smishing. I mean, I'm just, you know, giggly just based on the names of vishing and smishing, but that's a whole other topic. But um, it just seems like these these groups are creating a better mousetrap. You know, we there is such a reliance on technology that we are forgetting about the basics. I mean, going back to, the hot stove, you know, if the stove is on and the coils are red, um, you don't touch it, right? So, we never needed someone to tell us a third time to, hey, don't touch the hot coil because you might burn yourself. And fast forward to now, it's like there's such a reliance on technology that we assume that the technology will stop us from doing things that could either harm ourselves or harm, in this case, the organizations that we work for, right? So to me, the human risk factor when it comes to cybersecurity is basically a turn going, back to the basics of common sense. Like if there's a link in your email that you're not aware of, or you're getting an email from someone you don't know, and there's a link in there, you know, 10 times out of 10, you shouldn't click that link, right? So I think to me, that's where the human risk factor of cybersecurity is really focusing in on, is going back to the days of common sense.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I was just before the podcast, I was talking to someone about the principle of Occam's razor. Basically making things as simple as possible. If there's an event or if you're doing something, just keep it simple. But having said that, I think the article highlights a couple things that I think are really important. One is the rising of AI powered threats. The second is, I think, the remote work challenge, right? And then you have human centered security, the evolution of the threat landscape, and finally, elevating security awareness. When it comes to AI powered threats, I think that's where it gets the conversation becomes more nuanced because phishing, vishing, smishing, right? All those stuff. They all highlight the urgent need for managing the human risk, right, in terms of cybersecurity today. But so when you get like a well-crafted email that was, written and it seems to have come from your CEO or someone, it's going to take a heightened level of awareness to be able to say, your spidey senses start to kick in. So,
Mhm.
before you would get like an email from a Nigerian prince who, and all the telltale signs are there. Now, I think with AI driven capabilities, you now have to become even more aware, which I think you combine that with the challenges of working remote. You may have your kid running around, or you may have laundry or the vacuum running, and you see an email and you're not fully present. Well crafted, that's going to create some some interesting challenges. So I think, you know, when it comes to security awareness training, it has to be relevant, it has to be continual, it has to be consistent, and you have to make sure that it's interesting for the workforce. Because if none of those one or none of those boxes are checked, um, you're going to face some serious human related risk when it comes to your business operations.
For me, I enjoy this article. I'm a compliance expert professional by trade now. So security awareness is kind of up in that wheelhouse. That is something always on my mind that, I'm always talking to people about, whether it's as an external auditor, definitely checking to see how they do their security awareness program. And even now, you know, and I feel my organization working at a research laboratory where we have about getting close to 6,000 employees, and we have about maybe two or three people who are security awareness professionals on that team. But that's their full-time job compared to, in this article as we read through, a lot of people look at it as being a part-time job. So we actually have the people to do it full-time who are running things constantly. But I always find it interesting with organizations trying to go for a security compliance certification or audit, and when we get to the cybersecurity awareness program, right? how often are they focusing on it? Is it just once a month, or not once a month, but once a year, that they're just going to send out a pretty generic um, uh, man, my a pretty generic quiz or training program that maybe is not even applicable to their industry, but hey, here's something that's free that we can find, that we can pull it off. Hey, you've done your security awareness training program for the year, right? Is that really enough? And in this article, it's definitely leveraging that's not going to be enough. That's something we could talk about later on. And kind of what Chris was saying, one of the kind of a shocking statistic that they threw in here is talking about how only 20% of organizations will report a security incident involving remote workers. Right? That's pretty low. That was a pretty drastic statistic to me. I'm not sure how accurate that is. But I could probably see how organizations can look at remote workers as, yes, you're on my network, but you're not really in my network. You're kind of tied to it. But at the same time, hey, a security incident, if a person does something on their personal laptop and is using that to connect to a corporate account and into corporate resources, that's a huge, attack vector that someone can take advantage of. And so I feel like organizations really need to start paying more attention to the remote workers, and kind of what's going on and how they can protect themselves. And I mean, just understanding that just because they're remote doesn't mean that if an incident happens that you can kind of brush it under the table. You still should be able to report something like that.
Yeah, it goes back to if a tree falls in the woods, did it really fall in the woods if you weren't observing it, right? As far as the 20%, as you mentioned, and as the article mentioned, about how organizations report those cyber incidents if the workers were remote, it's a shame, but it makes sense to me, right? Because at the end of the day, no one wants to be on the 6 o'clock news, right? So obviously, to me, cyber threats are happening a lot more often than people state they are. So if we were to go back to the IBM slide that talks about the cyber threats in 2022, and it talks about basically the amount of money made from ransomware, the U.S. being 9 million on average, and the rest of the world being 4 to 5 million on average. Those statistics are wrong because of that percentage that is being reported about these cyber attacks that organizations experience. So, yeah, it's crazy to think only 20%, but no one wants to be talked bad about in public, So, yeah, it is. We do need a change as far as not only reporting, but skill sets and better ideas, and dare I say, better solutions out there to one, maybe heighten that percentage a lot higher than 20%, and even better, a solution that will lower the blast radius of said cyber threat, right? Because everyone's running scared now. And Chris, you mentioned the whole thing with AI getting involved. That is a scary thing. That is a huge brain with multiple processors and unlimited amounts of RAM that can, quote unquote, mimic the human thought process to try to figure things out. So if there's a crack in the wall, AI is going to find it, whereas us lowly humans, it may take us some time. I mean, there was an article that I read that AI supercomputers, basically in general, can now solve problems that would, I guess, originally take 47 years to figure out in minutes. So the posture we need to take when it comes to protecting our environments, which at the end of the day is our data, from cyber threats, has to be at the data layer. right? So that's what it is at the end of the day. You can protect the network, which is needed, right? But what's going to happen with the network? You have accounts that could be compromised, right? Especially not just user accounts, but oh gosh, the word escapes me. See, the brain freeze is catchy, Jonathan. So it isn't just you. Um, Basically, accounts that are used for activities. What are they called? Help.
Privileged service
Thank
accounts,
you.
privileged accounts,
Thank you.
service accounts.
Thank you, lowly Bears fan. Yeah, service accounts. They hack service accounts that are used for one trust, right? There's no zero trust if you have a service account. If you have a service account, there is one trust. So there that is from the network standpoint. Identity, that could be a whole other topic that we can talk about when those get compromised, because most of the time, when an environment gets, I mean, let's call it for what it is, hacked, it's a user account that's already within the environment, right? So that gets compromised. Devices, that's another topic we could talk about. So the data layer, where the data resides, is the most important to me, in my opinion, when it comes to protecting organizations, because that's what they're going for, right? It's your data. It isn't your network. You know, they don't care about your ASICs on your switch. you know, they're going for the creme de la creme, the data that is the most profitable to them. I mean, think about the hack for the U.S. Marshals, right? That happened this year. They are security tight. They have air gapped environments, but they still got hacked because there is malware that sits in the environment and they go off on a timer, right? They just sit there and they just wait. It's like back in the day when people would like go on long lines for Best Buy to get the best deals on TVs and entertainment systems and stuff like that. That's what malware is doing right now. They're waiting in that Best Buy line for that opportunity. When that air gap opens, they attack, right? So yeah, it's crazy what AI is capable of, right? And I think that's how a lot of these malware variants are created. They're smart, they're intelligent, you know, they are there's some kind of wonderful, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Those are very important points you have actually mentioned there. So, in light of the challenges associated with AI, looking at the top human cyber risk, and it says that the primary threats including phishing, which you have mentioned, I mean, password authentication, risk mitigated by advanced tools. It says that the challenge of fostering a culture or a security culture for effective detection or reporting and the risk of IT admin misconfiguration, especially in cloud. So the article is actually saying that these are the top concerns, the top risk that many organizations will have to deal with. So one of the questions is, how do we actually develop I would say, a new paradigm shift in terms of our security culture within organizations to deal with the social engineering element of AI that we have to deal with as organizations.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but I think and you're starting to see it's. Let me finish that thought. It's an interesting one, but I don't think it's an insurmountable challenge or opportunity for us. You're starting to see a lot of vendors. One that comes to mind. I don't know if it's okay to say their name here, but they focus on the human side of security. If you're sending an email out and you happen to it's in your cache, they ask you, do you really want to send this out? In some cases, they look at emails that are coming in, where they're coming from. So I think you're starting to see solutions, because human beings they have to be a part of the equation, right? And they're usually the most attack vector. And humans are humans. They're not angels. They're not AI. They're not, right. We're flawed people, and we're going to make mistakes. So increasing the awareness, providing solutions that would, some type of scaffolding, so to speak, around that awareness. So not only do you get trainings, not only do you have like that fish button on in your email, but there's also other capabilities that will, kind of that defense in depth, right? So it's security awareness in depth, and then make that a part of your security culture. I remember being at one organization where they would have, October Cybersecurity Month. They would have a booth set up, getting people, making them aware that, okay, put your password in here. I'm not going to touch that one, but they had
Mhm.
exercises like those where they would say, you put your password in here and see how long it would take for us to crack it, or take for a bad guy to crack it. But I think the thing is, it's not just, you can't just beat people over the head with cybersecurity awareness. You have to provide them with the tools, because they're not here working to, you know, be cyber aware. If you're an accountant, you got to make sure the debits equal to credits. If you're marketing, you're doing things that you're here to do. The challenge, I think, for security professionals is not only to make folks aware of cyber risks and threats that are out there and how vulnerable we are to those, but to also provide them with the tools so they can get their jobs done, feed their kids, go home, and do what they need to do on the weekends. So it's a challenge, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it goes back to, going beyond the, authentication without authorization, avenue. You hit a good point, Chris, and that's, it's an old school phrase: keep it simple, stupid. Everyone has their job. They want to go to work, do their job, and come home. So there needs to be an education where we can explain cybersecurity in layman's terms to, the said user, the said employee within the organization, right? Because a lot of these phishing, schmishing, vishing, I'm so going to look all those up. Um, they're creative, right? I mean, these aren't stupid people that are creating these tools here, and it's amazing. It's horrible, but it's amazing. I mean, someone took the time to figure out, how am I gonna hook this person? I mean, I know this person has access to this type of data, and I think they are gullible, and I am going to find the crack in the armor. And they take the time to build these tools. So yeah, it's we have to find a way to, better tools. You need those protections based on those pillars of zero trust, right? Those are necessary. I don't think it's just one tool that's going to solve the problem, right? I work for a company that protects at the data layer. It's great. It's awesome. I think it, creates miracles. But we still need the protection at the network layer. We still need the protection at the device and the identity layer, or and that's all, and the application layer. I forgot to mention that. So yeah, layman terms speak to educate the masses, proper tools to protect all 5 layers of the CISA zero trust maturity model. And I'll drop my mic.
Yeah, there's nothing left to say.
Yeah.
After that, there's nothing left to say. Jonathan.
I mean, I was going to say something, but after Nate, I mean, yeah, that's pretty good. But I mean, I was going to kind of come back to you, Chris, with kind of the creating that culture, right? Is it one that, hey, is it just once a year, or do you do it often? The organization I'm at right now, it's every month there's some type of activity going on, where they're very interactive, right? They'll have a booth set up somewhere that you can come and talk. And here to show you, we have this thing with little squishy foam fish and sea animals. I don't know what it is. I'm still relatively new, but that's like a big thing in the organization. So you go there, you answer a question right, you click on the phishing link on your emails for a phishing campaign or something that's unique. They'll put you in a drawing to get one of these. If people collect them, it's insane. but it's helping to produce a good culture of, hey, how do we stay kind of aware of what cybersecurity is like. It's not just a thing that's out there in the corner where the organization's like, okay, we do security awareness training. It's upfront. It's not blasting people in the face, but it's there letting you know, here's some important things, here's the resources that you can come to. If you're concerned, you can reach out to them. And there's been times when within the organization, we kind of, they use a third party to send out some information. And there's times when I'm looking at that email address and I'm just like, that doesn't look like a unique, that's a very unique domain, right? So I will take that email and send it over and say, hey, is this legit? And they'll you reply back yes or no, right? So yeah, and they're very happy doing that. Another organization that I was at, that was a startup, so there were only like 20 of us. The way we developed the culture is when we'd get these smishing attacks, especially, we would have fun with them and play back with the attacker, and play along with them. We'd go and take pictures of like gift cards and say, hey, which one do you want? Oh, hey, I don't have the money. Can you like forward me money so I can buy the gift card for you? Right. And then we'd share that with each other. And we had a great time doing that. Right. It's like, hey, if the person's going to be active, especially on a smishing, with your phone, let's have a little fun with them. But, that kind of kept like a culture of, hey, be aware. That was just some fun stuff we did just to help kind of create that culture of awareness, right? Instead of, hey, I don't know what this is, so I'm going to click it. That the CEO says he needs me urgently, and to click this link to send him something, right? We would just share that with everyone and just laugh about, man, how desperate these people are getting. One thing I want to kind of point out back into the article is if people are interested in getting into cybersecurity, apparently, according to this article, the human factor says it earns up to 5% more than your peers. So if you're interested in getting into this, I know I enjoy human factors, not just in cybersecurity, but my previous profession of being in aviation, human factors was a huge thing for me. So this has been something that's always interested in me. I want to know what those roles are so I can get that extra 5% too that I'm making already. But just for those who know, technical skills are great, but you don't need as much technical skills for, human factors and security awareness. It's a lot of using common sense and just communication and talking. So those who are still thinking about trying to get in, here's a good avenue. And I'll drop my mic on that one.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Awesome, guys. I mean, very important notes. I mean, great points for us to, in this conversation, and as we look at explore managing human cyber risk in terms of how it actually matters more than ever before. And just to add a little bit of summary to all that have been said so far as it relates to action to increase our program success, which you guys have actually, I mean, explored in depth. I mean, talk in terms of risk. I mean, make things simple for persons in terms of building that culture that exists, ensuring that we have the necessary leadership support in our organization, taking our team size into consideration. So, guys, there we have it for our weekly cybersecurity article review in 30 minutes. So, see you next time, same place for another informative conversation. So, have a wonderful rest of the day, guys.
Hey, you too. Thank you.
Same with
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Take care.